After losing the boat in an accident, Jen washes up unconscious on an island. When she regains consciousness, she sees her friend Brad nearby and rushes to check on him, only to find a large piece of coral lodged in his stomach. She screams for help, but no one responds. Taking a flare gun from his vest, Jen drags Brad away from the shore. She removes the coral and tries to cover his wound with fabric, but his only words are, "Did you see it?" Believing he needs water, Jen heads into the jungle, breaks a coconut with a rock, and returns only to find Brad dead. Jen begins to explore the island, but after walking along the beach, she finds herself back where she started. She moves into the jungle and stumbles upon old weathered objects, suggesting they've been there for some time. Again, she calls for help, but no one answers. Searching through a bag, she finds medicine and in a cooler sealed soda bottles. Hidden under some leaves, she uncovers a small metal box containing matches, sailcloth, and a bag of toys. A strange noise catches her attention and she follows it to a tree where a bird flies out, startling her. Jen then covers Brad's body with large leaves and, noticing the sunset, looks for a place to sleep. As rain begins to fall, she wraps herself in the sailcloth and leaves some items outside to collect water. The next morning, Jen finds a mass of dead fish washed up on the shore and begins collecting them. She's disturbed to discover a dead shark with deep gashes on its body. Using rocks, she cuts off the shark's heads and stores the fish in the cooler. While rummaging through another bag, she finds a notebook, but the water has washed away the text. She does, however, find a photo of a couple, which intensifies her loneliness. Later, Jen discovers piles of rocks and a cross-shaped branch, realizing these are graves. This prompts her to dig a hole for Brad's body, burying him with leaves and sand and marking the grave with a piece of wood bearing his initials. That night, Jen hangs the sailcloth and uses the shark's gashes to start a fire, cooking the fish. The next morning, Jen is horrified to find that Brad's body is missing and his grave is soaked in blood. Fearing a threat on the island, she crafts a spear from a rock and a branch, setting up a makeshift barricade with a log to guard herself through the night. She falls asleep only to be woken by strange noises. Unable to see anything in the dark, she assumes it was caused by the fire. The next day, Jen notices objects floating nearby and swims out to retrieve them. While diving, she spots a mysterious hole in the ocean floor, but doesn't approach it. Returning to the shore with her newfound items, she opens a suitcase and finds clothes changing into something warmer. That night, Jen inspects the box again and discovers photos of its deceased owners. Suddenly, she hears a plane overhead and races to the shore, firing a flare in hopes of being seen. However, the plane flies by, and as the flare falls into the ocean, it reveals the shape of a tall, strange creature. Terrified, Jen grabs her spear and hides in the jungle. The creature steps onto the island, searching the bushes but failing to find Jen before leaving. The following morning, Jen sees the creature has destroyed her camp. As she picks up the old pictures, she notices the creature's eyes in the background. Desperate to escape, Jen stuffs both Brad's and her life vests into a suitcase, hoping to use it as a raft. However, it proves too unstable to support her weight, and in frustration, she tosses it back on the sand. As the sun sets, she hides inside a hollow tree to sleep safely. In the middle of the night, Jen is woken by the sounds of the monster arriving on the island. It begins to roll her log, causing her to remain completely still, trying to protect herself and avoid making noise. After what seems like an eternity of shaking and growling, the creature finally loses interest and leaves. Days pass with Jen surviving by fishing during the day and hiding at night. After some practice, she manages to kill a small shark with her spear, hanging it in a tree. But when she awakens the next morning, she finds the shark is gone, taken by the monster. Later, another body washes ashore, mutilated by the creature, its legs missing. Jen hangs it in the tree and hides in her hole, staying awake this time to witness the monster feed on the body. At that moment, she hears a plane overhead and is tempted to call out, but she can't risk it. The monster is too close. It eventually leaves, but the plane has already gone. The following day, Jen uses sailcloth, belts, and rope to make a hammock high up in the trees. From there, she can keep an eye on her surroundings and stay out of the monster's reach. That night, as she rests in the hammock, she spots the monster moving through the bushes below. It begins to pull on the ropes, attempting to bring the hammock down. In a panic, Jen screams and struggles, falling out and running for her life. The monster chases her, leaping in and out of the water to move faster. Eventually, it blocks her path, and in a desperate act, Jen stabs it with her spear. But the creature throws her to the ground and hits her again, setting her tumbling into the water. Just as it prepares to kill her, a thunderclap scares the monster off. Jen, battered and bruised, climbs a tree to sleep despite the discomfort as rain pours down. The next morning, Jen discovers a nasty wound on her leg. While washing up and changing clothes, she spots a life raft floating nearby and rushes into the water to reach it. To her surprise, she finds her boyfriend Lucas and Brad's girlfriend Mia aboard. Jen helps them to shore and they share a tight reunion hug. Jen offers them fish and soda while trying to warn them about the monster, showing them the picture and explaining Brad's death. However, Lucas and Mia dismiss her claims, thinking she's imagining things. They refuse to leave on the raft as the isolation had nearly driven them mad. Jen decides to gather more food and borrows Lucas's Swiss knife. As she cleans the fish, she notices blood on the blade, growing suspicious. She tries to convince them again to leave, but an argument breaks out with Lucas shouting at her. Later, while Lucas and Mia are distracted, Jen gathers her belongings and places them in the raft. She pushes it toward the ocean, determined to escape. However, Lucas spots her and rushes to stop her. In the ensuing struggle, Jen kicks Mia in the face, trying to break free. Furious, Mia strikes Jen with an oar, knocking her unconscious. When Jen regains consciousness, she's horrified to find that her friends have tied her to a tree. They refuse to release her when she asks, and Mia leaves to give Lucas some privacy. Lucas starts venting his frustration, blaming Jen for not appreciating the fun he had with his friends on the boat and complaining about her threatening to break up with him. Jen tries to brush off the argument, but Lucas continues, berating her for having no home, no money, and no future without him. He insists she had no right to try to leave him on the island despite all he had done for her. As Jen insists that they talk later, Lucas points out that she sounds too much like his friend Zach, though he doesn't reveal what happened to him. Meanwhile, Mia, walking along the shore, notices fish pieces floating in the water. Suddenly, Lucas and Jen hear Mia scream. Lucas grabs a torch and rushes to help, only to find the monster killing Mia. He hits the creature with the torch, but easily pushes him away before jumping into the sea with Mia's body. By the time Jen manages to cut herself free, it's too late. Only blood stains the water. The next morning, Lucas finally agrees to escape with Jen on the raft. Together, they catch a bunch of fish and cook them over a fire made from the last match they have. They load their supplies into the raft and set off. However, as Lucas rows, Jen is horrified to notice blood stains inside the raft. Suddenly, the creature surfaces below them, its claws reaching up to attack Lucas. He dives into the raft for cover and Jen quickly seals it up. The monster relentlessly scratches at the bottom of the raft, and after a few hard hits, it punctures a hole and sticks its head through. Jen kicks it away and Lucas fires the flare gun. The first shot misses, but the second flare lands in the creature's mouth, and they use the opportunity to push it back into the water with their spear. For a brief moment, they think they're safe, but the creature resurfaces, reaching through the hole to drag Jen under. As it pulls her toward its lair, Jen remembers Lucas's dagger. Using it, she stabs the monster, causing it to release her and swim away. Just as she thinks she's free, the creature grabs Lucas, pulling him into the hole with it. Grief-stricken, Jen swims back to shore. On the beach, she notices the fire they thought had gone out still has a faint spark. She rushes to rekindle it and writes a letter in her notebook explaining everything in case she doesn't survive. Jen then starts preparing for her next move, gathering wood, making spears, and digging holes. While digging, she uncovers a skeleton and decides to use its bones in her plan. As night falls, the monster emerges from the water, attracted by the scent of fish. Jen sets a trap by lighting several fires to corner the creature. When it reaches the bait, she surprises it with a spear, stabbing it once before retreating behind a tree. The monster searches for her, but Jen waits until its back is turned and attempts another strike with a bone. However, the monster knocks her down. Refusing to give up, Jen stabs it again, even as it knocks her back with tremendous force. Seeing the creature bleed and weaken, Jen pushes forward, stabbing it repeatedly with whatever bones she can find, taking blows in the process. The creature pushes her down into the sand, but she stabs its arm to break free. It grabs her legs and pulls her closer, lifting her by the face to finish her off. Jen, in a last-ditch effort, pulls out another bone and stabs the wound she made earlier, forcing the monster to drop her. It slashes her with its claws one final time, but the pain overwhelms it and it falters. Jen uses the opportunity to flee to the beach, gathering more spears along the way. The monster chases her, but after a loud roar, collapses on the sand, still breathing. Jen stabs it one final time with the spear until it dies. To prove her victory, she cuts off the creature's head using a shard of its tuck shell. With the head as evidence of what happened, Jen makes her way to the raft, leaving the jungle burning behind her. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.